trustees, village councils, etc. And in his district, which runs from essentially the Hall of Fame, Pro Football Hall of Fame, all the way to Lake Erie, we've tried to speak to them all, and to remind those who we've met before that we're here and we're here to help, and to introduce ourselves to those people we have not met yet. But I grew up here in Plain Township, so I know this area very, very well. I'll date myself. I graduated from the last class of Glenwood, and my wife graduated, Beth graduated from the first class of Glen Oak. So those who live here that long know what year I'm talking about. And the Congressman himself has visited New Glen Oak on several occasions, has spoke to a couple of senior classes. We have a Visions for the Future program, and he spoke to a lot of students. But my purpose here today, and I'll be very, very brief, is that it was just a gentle reminder that we receive calls from your constituents on a regular basis, asking us to help them with a variety of services that the Congressman provides, and to remind the trustees themselves that many township trustees call us to ask about what we can do to serve townships or municipalities. A portion of Plain Township that we have is everything north and west of Bobolink, and in a few bubbles that were within the city limits of North Canton. It's not, geographically it's not much, but I think population-wise it's significant. So we certainly want to reach the whole portion of this. With your permission, I'd like to read a letter to you from the Congressman. An open letter to the constituents of the 16th District of Ohio. Hello, my name is Jim Renacci, and it is my honor and privilege to greet you as your Congressman. As your voice in Congress, my first priority is to be available to you. Feel free to call either my Ohio office located in Wadsworth or my office located in Washington, D.C. anytime if there is something you would like to share with me. Your thoughts and opinions matter to me. Likewise, your struggles and your challenges matter to me as well. If I can help, let me know. My Wadsworth office specializes in assisting constituents in a wide variety of ways. For instance, my staff is able to assist you with veterans issues and benefit claims, as well as active duty military issues. We have young people who come back from Afghanistan and Iraq who call us every day, some from Plain Township. And we try to assist them as best as we possibly can. Also veterans from Vietnam and Korea who come to us dealing with the VA in Cleveland and other things. Social Security and Medicare issues. I don't know anybody that won't sooner or later be touched by Social Security and Medicare issues. And we also deal with that on a regular basis, about a third of our cases. And our office receives about 1,000 communications a month. And about a third of those are in Social Security and Medicare. Tax issues with the Internal Revenue Service. All the agencies we deal with, the IRS is by far the most difficult. That's probably not a surprise to anybody. But we help people with their individual tax returns if possible. What we do is we try to act as their agent to the IRS. Many people get very, very frustrated by being on an 800 number for hour after hour. They're going back and forth for months with letters and communications. It's not getting resolved. If they come to us, and if we write a letter to the agency by law, they have to respond to us with their status report within 3 days. And remarkably, when they get a letter from the Congressman, these issues tend to get resolved much quicker. We can't interfere in the merits of the case. They stand on their own. But what we can do is get it resolved quickly. And people seem to be very, very grateful for that. No matter how it falls in their behalf or not, they want to get it over with. And we have a lot of businesses that come to our office also. We've had businesses from Plain Township that have come to us complaining about the IRS that, again, the delays are just way too long, and the bureaucracy of it is just onerous. Passports, applications, we receive applications for passports every day, and problems with any other federal agency. Just to put a human face on this to give you an idea of the quality of the staff we have. We have several people that were on rough regular staff for 14, 15, 16 years. I've been involved in government for my entire life. It's a very mature staff, and it's one that serves constituents very well. We had we know the agencies and we know the people in the agencies. We had a young lady whose husband was in the Marine Corps, had been sent to Japan. He'd been there for 9 months. His unit was returned to the United States, but because of special duties that he had, they were going to keep him in Japan for another several months. He had a 9-month-old child he had never seen before. She was determined to go to Japan and take the new infant with her to introduce the child to her father. And she bought a ticket and was going to have only needed one ticket for herself for the infant, but didn't realize post 9/11 she also had to have a passport for that even few-month-old child. She called us on Monday morning, and her plane for Japan was leaving on Wednesday morning. And we were able to get that child a passport in less than 36 hours. Now, I would urge you, please give us more time than that. But if you haven't received your passport within 2 weeks of any trip you're taking, let us know and we can resolve that for you. I will go on. My office is also able to assist you if you'd like to make a trip to Washington, D.C. We can arrange tickets and priority visits. Or you may order a U.S. flag which has been flown over the United States Capitol. And we receive thousands of requests for that every single year. In a word, please consider my office a one-stop resource for you, the taxpayer, and a constituent in the 16th District. My Wadsworth office can be reached by phone at 330-334-0040, and my Washington office at 202-225-3876. Sincerely, Jim Renacci, Member of Congress. So that's just a general reminder that we serve constituents, all 721,000 constituents in the entire district from Stark to Cuyahoga. And I live in Stark, and I certainly am able to meet with any constituent who calls our office and you know, it's a senior or whatever and can't move. I've many times gone to meet them. Also, I would remind the trustees that the Congressman frequently writes letters of support on behalf of grants that the trustees are seeking in state or Washington, you know, the state grants program or in Washington for parks, for safer fire grants, or you know, perhaps if you're working with the sheriff, you know, we can sometimes provide COP or COP letters of support grants. So if you know what the grant is and you've got a target and you're trying to get a grant for something within the township, let us know, and the Congressman frequently writes letters of support on your behalf. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but otherwise it's just a privilege to be here, and it's nice to say that we're here to help. I work for Congressman Renacci, but I also work for you, and I work for the constituents of Plain Township. We'll do whatever we can to help. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? No?
Thanks.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a discussion for the board in regards to trick or treat. We had 2 complaints about trick or treat, which is Saturday, October 31st from 5 to 7. One was a complaint that it corresponded with dinner time. The second was a complaint that was just received, and it's a complaint regarding the Massillon-McKinley game, where that they're concerned that the game may not be over or will just be over, and that there may be a problem with traffic at that time. So I am bringing this forward for your discussion.
I think I'd like to start on this one. First of all, the first communication that we received about trick-or-treat time being established because there was football game times and so forth, that's the farthest thing from the truth. In fact, it's an irrelevant point. The time has always been followed by the township, of which the Stark County Commissioners have set, so we've got consistency. And I mean, for the individual that obviously this impacts the family dinner, I would encourage they still do their family time together versus, you know, trick-or-treating, sort of hallmark holiday in my one way, shape, or form. With respect, though, to the McKinley game, I do think there's some legitimate, you know, concern with the amount of traffic that's over there, and then, you know, the volume of children that can be out with adults that from a proactive measure without, on such short notice, trying to change trick or treat time. We could potentially consider an additional patrol over there that would ensure the security and well-being. You know, I think that's more than a proactive and precautionary measure to justify it, and especially given, you know, the feedback and input's been off of two individuals. When you take a look at that as a percentage of the entire population of Plain Township, it's really not a strong sample of the entire population.
And the game is at 2 o'clock, so even if the time was changed from 1 to 3, you're still in the middle of the game, so you still have the same issue. And that's what I discussed with Lieutenant Springer.
It starts at 5, right? The game should be over by 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Because there are football games that don't last 3 hours. I mean,
They pushed to it.
unless it goes up to double overtime, but it's possible.
Should be over by
Should be over.
Well, we will send some extra patrol. I think,
So, not extra patrol, but an extra duty?
Extra duty.
Extra duty.
Okay.
Do we have time to get an extra duty?
We should. My recommendation would be for 2 vehicles from 4 PM to 8 PM. That allows us to help get that traffic flow moving out after the game, make sure we're locked down. If that person is not needed, that extra car is not needed in that area, then they can continue on to the rest of the areas of the township and pass out candy to the kids.
that would help.
So you can set that up for us.
We'll make it happen.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
And then the next item is a resolution for the false alarms.
And I will also move on new business number 2.
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
And Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
And item number 3 is a resolution to enter into a 5-year Toshiba software maintenance agreement with Always Better Communication and authorized payment of $3,026.27 from Fund 01A to 680.
I will so move.
I'll second it.
Just as far as for simple discussion, conversation, this is for our phone hardware that had been upgraded recently, and given a portion of this is truly the hardware software driven. That's the reason for the contract. We're going with a 5-year duration because of the price break.
Yeah, and it is first, yep, it's the software maintenance. The phones are almost brand new, and it is a cost reduction the longer we go. I discussed it with the entire staff, both department heads, and with Eric Haynes. We all felt the most comfortable with the 5-year, as there's no foreseeable purchase of new phones. We've been with ABC, for over 10 years, probably longer.
Yes.
Our Trustee Sabo would remember, and they're a very solid company.
Further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
And that's the end of new business.
Okay, that brings us to the fiscal officer's report. I'm going to turn that over to Mr. Flex.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first item on the agenda is a request for a resolution to authorize the payment of the pending warrants.
I also move.
I'll second.
Discussion, it's just a little higher simply due to pavement
On,
cost.
yeah, and this one, there's still some road material contract projections. So that's the bulk of the 500,000.
Further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
And Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
The second item is a request for a resolution to authorize the payment of regular payroll.
Also move authority to pay.
Second. Discussion. Okay. Roll call. I'll twist it over here for a minute.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 3 is a request for a resolution by the board to authorize the payment for the following medical claims.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
And Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 4 is the investment report and the bank reconciliation from September.
We're still getting a strong paltry 0.25%.
Yeah, they didn't change much. We just reinvested for a 12-month CD on the one that we had.
Any questions from anybody? Okay, good on that.
Fiscal Officer number 5 is a request for resolution by the board to authorize the following transfers.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
And Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 6 is the request for a resolution to authorize the payment for this year's portion of the transitional reinsurance program.
I will painstakingly move on this one.
Second.
Discussion.
Was that second, Mr. Lino?
Yeah,
I did.
as far as, just for discussion, what this has to do with the Affordable Care Act, where for 3 years, we essentially, being a self-insured group, have to pay in money to help offset all of the uninsured, so it's a subsidy, is what it amounts to, so our taxpayer dollars are being taxed by the government, is what this equates to, but there's no getting out of it, unfortunately.
They say it's not a tax.
Yeah. A fee
It walks like a duck and
quacks like a duck, it's a duck. Any further? Roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 7 is a request for a resolution by the board to authorize the refund for overpayments as provided by emergency medical services. Or emergency medical services as provided by outgoing, sorry.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
And Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
And then Fiscal Officer number 8A, it's a request for a resolution by the board to authorize the benefits of longevity pay, which will be paid November 13th to members of the Plain Township Firefighter Association who meet the requirements as of the attached schedule.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
And then Fiscal Officer number 8B is a request for a resolution by the board to authorize the benefits of the longevity pay on November 13th to all non-bargaining unit employees who meet the requirements.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
And then that will conclude the Fiscal Officer's report for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Flesh. It's going to take us to the administrators. I'm going to turn that back over to Mrs. Campbell.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a resolution to authorize payment to Pelini Campbell William, and that's all.
So moved.
I will second that.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
And Mr. Hawes?
Yes. That included our voiceover.
Yeah, that's included in there.
Okay.
Yes, that's what that is for. Item number 2 is a resignation, a resolution to accept the resignation of Plain Township Zoning Assistant Stephanie Metzger, effective October 23rd, 2015.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion,
She has decided to resign to be a stay-at-home mom.
best of wishes to her.
That was Mr. Sabo in a second, correct?
Yes.
That's correct.
Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Okay, the next item is a resolution to pay Canton Data Print for the printing of the 2015 Plain Township Winter Newsletter in an amount not to exceed $4,000, and to authorize payment from Fund 01A 26K,
So moved.
and it includes the purchase of a new mailing list.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Discussion,
Now, the cost won't be $4,000, it's actually, and we always go over, it's closer to $3,600, which is $1,000 more than we used to. However, our saturation on the newsletter was extremely short. Every single route was missing residents, and we were very short on the amount of residents we missed. As a matter of fact, Trustee Sabo said he had never received our newsletter. So thousands and thousands more residents will be receiving our newsletter. So thus the increase and us actually purchasing our list.
As a point of clarification, just for moving forward, I mean, as we were able to have this identified through actually doing an annual review of vendors and possible cost.
It wasn't so much.
Is there a way,
Yes.
is there a way to ensure we are keeping up to date with this? Because I would hate to see an area like, say, up off of Mount Pleasant where the backside of Bobolink is gonna be developed.
Yeah, it
That
wasn't
gets filled out, or the golf
Yes,
course gets
you're
filled
right.
out, and all of a sudden, you've got those chunks missing. I think it's pertinent that
Yes.
you keep them.
It wasn't the review of vendors. It was actually a vendor taking our list and then running a list. Because every year we had vendors sending us quotes and they weren't correct. Nobody ever went out and took our list and checked our list. So this vendor actually did a check on the list and will continue to do. She was the first vendor who did that.
They do the mailing too, correct?
Well, they will do the mailing too, but we have another
Okay.
resolution for the mailing.
Do we know what area?
Every single area was short in the
So
township.
it could be, say, half your allotment,
It
half
could
my
be
allotment.
everywhere spread out, there was.
It was everywhere spread out.
It wasn't
Wow.
like you would say entirely Avondale or entirely
Right, it was just
Bobolink.
everywhere spread out.
Well, I
Yeah.
think some of it had to do with the bulk mailing
It did,
process.
it did. And they're gonna bulk mail a little different, but what will happen is some areas, some people in North can't make it, or some people in Canton may get it, but you've gotta saturate the area so that your residents are getting it. And if those people who get it and they don't like it, pitch it. But that way you're not severely undercutting the people of Plain Township, leaving thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands, and that's what it was, of people not getting the newsletter.
It's the second half of this discussion. Are we still emailing folks who want it, or has that fallen by the wayside? Is
No,
that something
we're
we reestablished? Because, I mean, with technology, if, essentially it'd be like the equivalent of a do not call list. If we can reduce print by, say,
Yes.
a couple thousand, I'm not saying dollars, but in volume, and I know, it still turns out just a few bucks if those volumes.
Doesn't matter, yeah. In this newsletter, we're putting in, please email us if you don't want to receive the newsletter, but problem about not receiving it is they're in that list, they're gonna get it. But we'll put in, even if we put in, email us if you want to go green, they're still gonna get it because you're bulk mailing it. There's no way to eliminate that,
Okay.
Wow.
yeah. And that's what we learned through this process.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
And Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
And then the next resolution is for the postage of the winter newsletter.
I will so move.
Second.
Discussion?
Again, the price you see is high, we always open it high, it's about $1,000 less there, so I opened it for $4,500, I would be closer to $3,600.
Roll call?
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Okay, item number 5, I just wanted to give the board a recap of our e-waste recycling. And we took in 7,377 pounds of mixed computers and electronics. Actually higher because they had to come back and pick up a washer, was it?
Washer, refrigerator.
A washer, a refrigerator. Mhm.
Wow.
And 3,150 pounds of CRT TVs and monitors.
Wow.
So we do it every fall and spring, we'll continue to do it, it's no charge to us, but that's just an enormous amount of e-waste. So a huge value to Plain Township. And then I had added number 6, just to give the board an update, that I have worked with Diebold today, that you see the door propped open. We will, from now on, I'm giving them a list by the end of this week of all of our township meetings for the rest of the year, next year. I've given them zonings already, that they will automatically have our doors opened through our box up front. I'll give them the list of all of our holidays and election days. It's better to have them do it electronically instead of all of us knowing how to do the front door. It's safer, more secure that we use our keys, so we're monitored as we come in and out versus any of us knowing how to open the door in case of, theft or leaving it unlocked. So it's better to have us all tracked. So from this meeting on forward, it should be automatically unlocked and locked from Diebold. I'm creating a list, a spreadsheet of, the contacts, the names, what we need to do, how to order keys, how to activate them, and we should be set in the future from point forward. Yes. Yeah, but we do need to order more keys, which I'm doing, and activate them, so we should be squared. And that's the end of the administrator's report.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. It's going to take us to the fire department. I'm going to turn it over to Chief Snyder.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number one is just some general information. In the past few weeks, we've had quite a few calls regarding CO calls, and to name a couple of them, one we had about a week and a half ago where had a highly potential lethal amount of CO in a residence. There was a family of 5 living in the residence, and they did have an alarm that went off. They basically ignored it for a few hours and finally called us later that morning. And we got there, the CO levels were over 700-800 parts per million. When we do a monitoring, anything above 10 parts per million, our alarms, our detector monitors, activate. Anything over 100, we make sure that these people leave the residence and so forth. So this particular residence had almost 800 parts per million in it, and we did transport all 5 of them to the hospital with the information I received that they all had high doses of CO poisoning. And so they were extremely lucky that they did call, they did go to the hospital, and they were treated at the hospital. But just want to remind residents that it's important, that, especially this time of year with the heating season taking effect, that people, they don't have, they should. And then obviously, get those in the homes, and obviously with smoke detectors the same way. Obviously this time of year, we try to remind everybody to change your smoke detector when the time changes. So if you have a battery operated smoke detector in your residence and you have not changed the battery yet, and that the device should be, we recommend that obviously you do that also.
And that's coming up this Saturday, right, Chief?
Yes,
So
that's
this Saturday, we should change your batteries.
What would one purchase a good CO detector? Any hardware?
Any of those hardware stores, I know there's a communication that we saw, or Eric will read later on regarding this particular call. So, they're UL approved. I mean, they're all pretty much standard as far as some are a little fancier than others, but it's a recommendation that we give out that make sure that not only smoke detectors but CO detectors. And again, these CO detectors can be from furnaces, hot water tanks, stoves, your car that's sitting in the garage, and so forth. So
You only need one person, should just get 1 or 2?
you get them all at once, different levels.
And you should go on your basement and upstairs?
Yeah.
Any certain location?
Yeah, multiple places in the for smoke detectors, all
Well, I mean,
levels.
the CO.
CO in the basement levels.
You don't CO detector basement
Basement,
only?
first floor, second floor.
All
Or you
levels.
can't go all levels?
Yeah,
Any
doesn't hurt. So,
Wow. Thanks, Chief.
yep. So that's just a reminder to everybody that we've had, like I said, we've had a couple of those calls, and we were pretty pretty close to having a lethal dose, and so we want to make sure that message gets out. Okay. Item number 2 is a resolution to purchase and payment of Goodyear commercial tires, not to exceed $5,200.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Fest? Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
And Mr. Sable?
Yes.
That's all. Thank you.
That is going to take us to the road department. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Iacino.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, only one item this evening. It's a resolution to authorize posting of temporary no parking signs for the McKinley Massillon football game. To be posted on both sides of the roads, the following streets that are all listed. The temporary no parking signs will be posted on October 30th and removed on November 2nd.
I will so move. Second. Discussion.
Well, being that there's only one group of bleachers open this year, this should be not quite as hectic, or you think we're still
Well,
looking at?
I still think you're looking at a decent crowd. You got both end zones, they're still there. So I think it's better to be safe than sorry.
Hopefully they don't shrink pumps to the north. Hard time recovering.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Roll call?
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Okay, that's gonna include road, and take it to our zoning department, Mr. Farrar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 1 on the agenda is a refund for a Board of Zoning Appeals application that was withdrawn.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Second, I mean, yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
I interrupted him and said, you've been decreased the appeals meetings that we have.
She threw me
What
off
with
on that
abatements?
Item number 2 on the agenda is a resolution for nuisance payments for item number 8, or letters.
Also move on 2A.
I'll second it. Where is this? What was
It's high grass vacated, it's a bank foreclosure.
wrong?
Actually, it was pretty much property before these folks got their hands on it and then left it.
You know, speaking of that, so if I'm hoping I'll speak online, but I did have a resident who lives in this area. They counted at least 11 or 12 foreclosed homes. They wanted to know, what can we do with them? And really, I told her we were pretty much powerless unless this home was to the point where our fire department looked into it, if it was, destroyable, so I was unsafe. But other than that,
Because even the property maintenance code is, I think we've tried pushing that, really hasn't given us any.
over 12 they counted. And it's sad you have to tell a resident that there's really nothing to
The
do other
other thing
than.
is this was about a block from my old house, and it was pristinely kept, and ironically, the folks who had it are my neighbors in the new development. They had reported because they were sick to their stomach of seeing this. So, roll call,
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
And item number 3 on the agenda is a resolution to declare items A through B as nuisance abatements.
I will also move on zoning 3A and B.
Correct.
Discussion, roll call.
I'm sorry, Mr. Lino on the second?
I was
Just
just
say-
making sure.
But,
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
yes.
And that'll be it for zoning.
Thank you. It's going to take us to our Parks Department. I'm going to turn that over to Mr. Steinberg.
Thank you, gentlemen. Item number 1 is a resolution to approve and authorize payment to Miller and Company for the Porta John toilet service during the Bothwell Cup tournament in the amount of $2,100 paid from 14A08A.
I will so move.
I'll second it.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. Item number 2 is just a quick recap on the Bothwell tournament. We had over 120 teams at the facility during the 2 days of the tournament. I can happily report that we didn't even fill the west lot with the extra parking because of the still parking of both the road and then our parks guys that helped out with that. Further, we didn't park in the allotment across the street, and even Alpine was well managed with nothing in the neighborhoods. I just would like to point that out because we've had much smaller tournaments that have caused us much bigger problems. So we do have facilities to park and park well, as long as it's done correctly.
As far as just the dynamics of that, the folks who were there to participate, watch and so forth, did we find that they tended to stay? They stayed for most of the tournament, or was it some come and go? Because I know that's been an argument to the board previously, that, well, our folks are different, and that they just stay
Even if there's.
versus other
Well,
tournaments.
for the most part, they were on site. You did have rushes of out, in because of the way the tournament was broken up per the schedule,
Okay,
which also is helpful when you schedule it properly, because it allows us to get cars out and bring that next wave in.
okay.
But yeah, there are a lot of folks that say, one of the other things I think both my foreman and I noticed is we only had one tent in the entire facility for a team, which is quite opposite of what we face with other events. So it was nice. We did very well. We sent an invoice out for $9,300 and change for the game fees, and we made over $4,000 in our concessions.
And that's what I was gonna say, they had to somewhat stay because our concessions was at an all-time high, so they couldn't have just come in and left. They were there eating. I just think with soccer people, I've been at all-day events and we don't put up tents. Because you're into it, you have a different mentality, you're into it for the long haul, you're moving around fields. So, but you do tend to stay, and they had to have stayed because concessions were so very high. That's one of the all-time highs we've had. And 120 sounds like one of the biggest tournaments they've
It's the
had
biggest
there.
they've had since I've.
If I may say, pulling in on Sunday, first of all, I see our road crew out there, which I'll give them very professional. And just the facility, the way it was all put together, it was, and I told Rob that, his staff, they put it together very well. And talking to the director again, they love coming to that tournament. It's well organized, and it was just really well put together, and it was all together, put together as a team. And I told Rob, he did a nice job there. So,
And it shows you that our concessions
Yeah.
works. Did you have outside vendors?
What?
Yeah, and that shows you, I think the idea is to really get away from those outside vendors and hone in our concessions, because that's how we make the money.
That's
So
the
I was telling
preference.
Rob, and Rob has a couple more ideas that we're looking at concessions too, so.
Because
It does.
Yeah, if you charge somebody $250 or $500 to come and you're spreading that out, and you've got, ice cream or, all those other vendors, that takes away from our own, and then we're not making that profit. But you get rid of those vendors and you had one, then we're making the money that's coming back to us.
I
Our
agree.
key is premium, if we're gonna continue to consolidate, we've gotta keep premium.
And yeah, and they
quality,
do.
not-
They really do.
Not a corner cutting.
No?
I
Because
second.
that will chase everybody right back away to where it's gonna.
Right. And they have the shed, and they do put out premium product.
Yeah.
Those folks
And I
work
look very
hard.
proud of what our concessions do, they do it very well. The product and the menu varies based on the season that we're in. I can tell you the November tournaments will look a little different than the October tournament or the May tournaments. But what we are very good at is adapting. And again, I gotta thank Joe's crew, the park staff was incredible, they always are. And I wanted to give a shout out to chief staff. We did have one young man who was in the midst of play that broke his arm, and
Oh,
chief's guys were there in less than 3 minutes and out in probably 12, 13 minutes tops.
Was he a goalie?
No, 7, 8-year-old, I think he was a forward.
Wow.
U10 player, just fell the right way, huh, chief? So,
Aw.
but it is a team effort, and I want to thank everybody for that.
Maybe I should go lean up and open up a spaghetti shop.
I'll have to charge a vendor fee for the
They
record.
go up $500 a booth.
Okay.
So why not, Rob?
For you,
The
maybe.
last thing I want to point out about the Basketball Cup is the only tickets that were written for cars that were parked in the median on top of the railroad track. So at that point, you have chosen not to park in our lots because, again, we never
Well,
closed
and
the
you're on
west
the
lot.
railroad track.
And you're on a railroad track.
Come on.
I've had a hard time waiving any of those. I kind of say, I'm sorry, but they stand. So, if there's no other questions, just want to give an update on our indoor programming. Our turf is indeed done and down. We're working through a couple tweaks and final stages of the construction. We will be open for programming Friday night. We have 33 teams signed currently. We expect high school to grow that to almost 40, which is a little higher than we normally are for session 1. And our current rec indoor participation is at 280, which is an all-time high by 65.
Wow.
We've done pretty well with the registrations this year.
Anxious to know Friday, can you give me some feedback on what they feel about that new term?
They're never shy about feedback,
Yeah.
so I'm sure over the weekend we'll
Yeah.
get feedback.
I hear about
So, no problem. I'll give you an update after the next meeting. I have to charge you for that, by the way.
Can we have the record reflect that if the turf is good enough, Trustee Lino wants to get out and play, so sign us up for a team.
Then you guys have to take after 9 PM Monday, through Wednesdays, or Saturdays, because that's all that we have left. It's $80 an hour, so. That's all, gentlemen. Thank you.
Nothing under our law director. It's gonna take us to communications. I'm gonna turn that over to Ms. Campbell.
Thank you. I'll take item number 1, and it got cut off on the text, so I'm going to read it straight from the text, and it says, and this is in regards to the CO carbon monoxide poisoning that Chief referred to, and it's to the Chief, and it says, "Thank you all for your help and thoughts and prayers. We're all home, safe and sound, thanks to God's grace. And a special thanks to the Plain Fire Department and Mercy Hospital for their outstanding service and care. Love you all. And everyone, please go online and order and plug in Nighthawk CO2 detectors. It saved our lives. You never think it's going to happen to you. God bless you all, and thank you all so much again." Which is a pretty powerful message. And again, if you don't have those CO2 detectors, there's no reason why you should not go out and purchase those. Item number 2, I'm going to turn over to Mr. Iacino.
Yeah, we received a communication from Keith Bennett, our Stark County engineer. They're having a public involvement meeting for Everhard Road and Whipple Improvement Project. This meeting will be held on November 18th from 4 to 6 at Stark State Automotive College Center on 5600 Whipple. It's an informal meeting because they are in the preliminary design stage right now for this project. Anybody can come to ask questions about the project. Quick overview is they're going to start at I-77 and head east all the way to Main Street in North Canton. We're going to be putting double turn lanes in on the westbound traffic and adding a right turn lane on the 77 ramp, two-way left turn lane up between Everhard Road and the railroad crossing, and a culvert structure will be replaced, which is part of the zipper ditch there. And on Everhard Road, they're also doing some turn lanes at our Stratmore Drive, which goes up to the top of the hill where all our hotels are. So and I know there's other things in the wake on that area, so this might be some, I will be attending if, somebody on the board, just to see what is, because this is preliminary as of right now, so I'm not even aware of what year this is.
And that's the end of communications.
That does bring us to the portion of the meeting, public speaks. If there's anybody in the public that wishes to address the board, we'd ask that you stand, state your name and address for the record, and then allow you to address the board. Nothing in our public speaks. Okay, that'll close that. It's going to take us to concerns of trustees.
I have one thing.
Couple quick things, just as an update. One, the Access Management Committee is going to be meeting November 4th. I'm the representative from Plain, along with Todd Hawk from Jackson and Dick Pirro from Osnaburg. So we're expecting some of those initial comments that the staff department heads provided back to be incorporated in new plans. So hopefully we'll have something updated. Anticipate I'll be coming back to you amongst our meeting with the County Township Association. I know there was some expressed concern that there was not safety service representation on that committee. The committee is established by ORC requirements, so I've been communicating at least to the folks within the County Township Association that here in Plain Township, all of our department heads are taking a look at this and helping feedback. So, Joe and Chief, whether you're talking with your peers and, the other areas, please leverage them too, because I want to ensure, the townships are well representative specifically, and then as we dive down into that, each of the service functions there. So, that's all on access management. For the media, we have upcoming, it's going to be a very top-notch Class Act event, our Salute to Veterans event on Veterans Day, November 11th. Free breakfast for all veterans. So we encourage them to attend. We have a really dynamic program. Our Parks Director's been working feverishly on locking down some of the logistics, along with the help of our other department heads, from Chief Snyder, our Administrator, Mr. Campbell, our Road Superintendent, zoning, so the entire team. And this is something that's going to be flagstone event moving forward. So if you need any additional details, we'll provide that. And I think those are the only items I had, so if there's nothing else, our concerns of trustees, close that. Concerns of fiscal officer.
Not this time.
That will take us to the approval of the minutes. First being for the regular meeting, October 13th, 2015, which I will so move.
Seconded.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes. Then we have approval of the special meeting for October 21st, 2015, which I will so move.
I'll second it.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes. And then we do have a need for executive session, so be it hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to adjourn to executive session at 6:49 p.m. from this regular meeting is authorized under Ohio Revised Code 121.22G for the purpose and consideration of 1B, employment of a public employee or official, 1E, promotion of a public or promotion or demotion of a public employee or official, 1F, compensation of a public employee or official.
Seconded.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
And Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
I know.